that's enough me talking absolute waffle for a few minutes to kill some time while people join. So I think that is everyone in from the waiting room. And if there's a few late participants, sure, that's their own fault. Folks, so thanks again for joining. This was a really quick and big selling pack. So there might be a few people in here watching either live now or the recording who are joining us for the first time. So welcome to Digital Drams. I'm Luke, the W Club manager, and I'm before I introduce you, Mariella, and let you take over, just going to, for everyone in who is this first time, we do want as many questions and comments in the chat as possible, tasting notes, keep the chat going. Most of the names I can see on here are very au fait with how to use the keyboard and get those questions in, but for anyone else, do pop in those questions. And anyway, that's it. You didn't come here to listen to me. You came here to drink some amazing whiskey and listen to Mariella. So Mariella, would you like to introduce yourself first and your own story in the industry, and then the lineup, the order we're going to go in tonight?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much, Luke, for organizing this, and thanks to all of you for joining. Lovely to see those of you that have turned on the cameras. Thank you for not being shy, and also thank you for writing in the chat. As Luke said, as I said that a billion times before, I could literally talk at a screen of myself talking back to me for hours. So I'm glad that I don't have to do that today, that I can actually talk to real people, even if virtually. But yeah, lovely to meet you all. Mariella, I work as Global Brand Ambassador for Isle of Arran Distillers, which is the best job I've ever had in my life. I travel the world telling people about Arran and now Lagg whiskies as well, which is fantastic. We have 2 distilleries to talk about today. We have a lot of different whiskies to taste through as well. So it's a bit of a awesome journey that we're going through, different casks, different peating levels, different products altogether. So each product has a little story. I don't know if you can tell from the name and the accent, definitely not Scottish, but 100% Italian, which means I could talk for hours. And I think it's better if we just start drinking straight away. Otherwise, you'll just be waiting for a very long time. So why don't we put ourselves our very first whiskey, which is the Arran 10-year-old. I will give you the lineup. Sorry, is that okay? I'll give you the lineup as we go. I remember to say the next dram each time, because it might change from what the lineup that I saw in the newsletters or on the website. But we'll do the 10.
Just even if we, sorry, Mariella, even if we do change the lineup slightly, do you want to, just so maybe some people like to pre-pour?
Sure.
And we can always move around if people keep track of where they are. But if so everyone can pour, would we give an order for everyone to pour, and then we can
100%. You're totally right. You can tell I don't do this as often as COVID times. So thank God for that too. But what we do is Arran 10-year-old, Arran Amarone next, and Arran Sherry cask. Then we move on to the Laggs, and we do the Lagg Kilmorey first, which is the bourbon cask matured, and the Lagg Curry Gravy after. And then we finish with the Arran Signature Series Barrel Bonfire, 2nd edition.
Perfect. So on the Lagg there, it was the Curry Gravy and then the Kilmorey, did you say?
The other way around. So Kilmorey first. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm just going to type that into the chat so people can see it.
Thank you. If you look at the samples, the lighter one, the lighter Kilmorey goes first, and then the sherried one goes after. So Kilmorey and Curry Gravy.
Perfect. And then finish on the signature. Marvelous.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Excellent. So we'll get started on the 10-year-old. Really sorry for interrupting you.
Yeah, no, absolutely fine. Please do that more often. Arran 10-year-old, did you pour yourself a glass?
I haven't yet, but I hope everyone else has. I can see on the cameras there that most people have.
Nice. Slange, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Cheers.
I'll get mine poured quickly here. How is this? Launch, everyone.
Oh, delicious. Great way to start a tasting. Great dram for the start of a tasting. Has anybody tried this whiskey before, by the way? Cool. I see some shake hands, some fun pops. I have to say that it's always been the benchmark of the range for many years. And since the rebrand in 2019, it's really put the company and the distillery on a map, I would like to say. There was a very slightly tweaking recipe. Obviously, the bottle looks like, completely different. The label looks completely different too. Still the same people, still the same liquid, but it really got us a lot more fame in a way, which is kind of nice. We won a lot of very good awards over the years, including the online Scotch Whisky Award, which is voted by you, by the drinkers. So even better to win something like that. But it's been selected multiple times as one of the best single malt whiskeys to drink every year. And I really think that slowly is becoming a classic, which is fantastic. It's one of those drams that you can have in the house anytime, that you can share with your friends, that you can drink whatever the season. It's like an evergreen dram that never fails you, which is amazing. And in terms of what goes inside it, we take whiskey that has been matured in first fill bourbon for 10 years. So nice fresh bourbon casks. And then a part of those casks are finished in first fill Oloroso sherry, which are quite punchy. If you've tried any sherry cask irons lately, you could tell the casks we use are very fresh, very, very fresh. So those average 9 months in sherry casks really give it a lot more warmth. And obviously, independent whiskey companies, so uncolored, unfiltered, 46% ABV. Just a stunner. It's a beautiful dram. I call it a bakery in a glass. For me, it's a lot of cinnamon donuts and pastel de nata, custard cake, like apple crumble, oranges. Like it's sweet, creamy, zesty, fruity, but like the orchard fruit's a little bit more cooked. You do have the vanilla, but it's also like a bit caramelly and chocolatey. And then you can tell that non-chill filtration and slow distillation, we'll talk about later, creates a very nice texture in your mouth. So it stays with you, it just doesn't disappear very quickly, and just fruity, sweet, delicious. Anybody should be able to enjoy a dram, even if they're new to the world of whiskey.
Yeah, no, certainly. I mean, you can definitely tell that your Italian background with your list of pastries there. I don't know this, we had maybe steak pie. That was about it, but some croissants in the middle. But no, it's gorgeous. The Kevin and Kev have said I'm getting sweet cut grass, lemon, creamy. Kevin getting caramel. Says another Kevin. And it really is, the mouthfeel is phenomenal on it, and the 46% it should be the norm for whiskies, if you ask me, and I think a lot of people on the call would agree. The finish, it's interesting because it really you really taste the Oloroso, and I know that sounds silly, but with a lot of Oloroso sherries, you don't get that kind of slight dryness on the finish, but it really comes through. It's a really, really good dram, and it feels like longer than 9 months, as you say, with the kind of the kind of strength of the sherry cask. Ian says, love this dram, so easy drinking, always got a bottle of this open in the house. Slight smell of almonds, says Andy there. And then Frank says, Werther's Originals, a great tasting note. And that one doubly applies, because it's also that kind of the way the mouth waters after with the oily texture is almost like a Werther's Original as well. David said, Crooks is spicier than expected. The lingering warmth and taste reminds me of sneaking a spoonful of cake batter when no one's looking. Says apples, apple pie, and custard. So a really great start there. Mariella, definitely going down well. This one you said obviously aged for 9 years. 10 years. It's 10-year-old, obviously. In the grand scheme of things, you're quite a young distillery on Arran, aren't you? Was it 94 you opened?
95 when we started distilling. Yeah, 94 we were like sort of building the distillery. But yeah, I mean, I think calling ourselves young these days, it doesn't really quite work anymore. I always call us the oldest of the young ones.
To put you off there, Mariella, because the distillery is older than me, so it's a very young distillery. Okay.
Fair enough. Then, yeah, very young, so young. Anybody born in 95 in the group today? I see some young faces. No?
We're gonna have some terrible FIFA reviews after this.
No, I'm joking. I'm also older than 95. Don't you worry, guys. Apart from Luke, but no, yeah, I call us the oldest of the youngest, of the young, because I feel I say it in the nicest possible way, and in the most heartfelt way. I feel like there's a new distillery in Scotland, like popping up with a new whiskey every weekend, which is absolutely awesome. We love to ride, the whiskey wave. But yeah, the distillery, the company was founded at a time where you really didn't have any new whiskey distilleries. We're kind of considered almost like the pioneers of the new whiskey waves. Like we started a little bit before, like, all the other, like, new, like young distilleries kind of like, have started. 95, if you think about it, like for 10, 15 years before us, there wasn't a distillery being built with just single malt focus in mind. There hasn't been a distillery after us for another 10 years. I think we were followed by Glengyle in Campbelltown, and then Kilcolman on Islay, and they started like 10 years after us. So we kind of have those 10 years of experience, and also like learning by failure and, and learning by making mistakes and everything in between. But at the same time, now we get to say that next year we can bottle a 30-year-old whiskey, which is absolutely amazing. So, and we also have a brand new distillery, which is only 5. So we get to see the whole like circle of things in the whiskey industry now.
Now that is very exciting. And we've got a few more excellent comments coming in there. We've got Jeff says no such thing as a bad Arran whiskey, and this improves it. Upside down pineapple cake on the nose, really nice, great for the price point. So always 1 or 2 in the cupboard, says Martin. Paul says smells like birthday cake with a wintry spiced plum and custard tart. Arran is so close by ferry, says Kevin, which is an excellent point. It's a perfect addition to the Isla Jura whiskey trail. Can't really think of many better 10-year-olds currently available, says Frank. Bob says spiced apple turnover, probably the best non-peaty 10-year-old on the market at integrity presentation. Addition of water, really smooth, says Kevin. So when did this first come out, Mario, the 10-year-old?
Very good question. I want to say in 2006. I actually looked up this the other day. I don't think it was 2005, like 10 on the dot. I believe if we look it up online, it was 2006 the first time it came out, and it kind of changed throughout the years anyway, because it was for a while. Unfortunately, I've only tried like the previous 10, like the one that was in the previous bottle to this, but there were also a previous 10, if you know what I mean, like another, like even older looking bottle that I don't think I've ever tried. But I know for a fact that the previous 10 was a bit more bourbon led. It was a little bit fresher, like zestier, more like summery. While I think with the new 10, we're definitely tapping into autumn. Like we're not into winter yet in terms of flavor. Like, the oloroso is there, but it's not predominant, but it's definitely a much warmer, more caramelly, like cooked fruit sort of style of whiskey. But it's also because we released another whiskey, like a little introduction to the range whiskey called the Barrel Reserve, which comes before the 10-year-old. It's a bit younger, it's a bit lower in ABV, it's 43%, which is only bourbon cask matured. So if you're looking for that style of like salty lemon zest, like, lemon peel, fresh, like, grassy, creamy, fresh vanilla Arran, you can also get it from the Barrel Reserve. So you have like options.
Mm-hmm. It's the I was going to say we got a question there on that along those lines, and I love the description of it as in like an autumnal whiskey. I think that's brilliant. There's a question in terms of from Paul saying, is it literally called the Arran 10-year-old, or does it have another kind of name that it goes by or on the label? Which I thought was an intriguing question, because I'd always just assumed it was Arran 10, but it does. And this probably isn't to do with the name, but I do maybe bring up a picture of the branding. The new branding is stunning, and it does have a lot of great information on the distillery. Is there any other names it goes by, Mariella?
No, the Arran 10. I think it's always been the Arran 10. This one, like we do name others, like the Cuore Caste Boffi, Sherry Caste Bodega, and whatnot. This one is, I believe, has always been the Arran 10. But actually, my lovely colleague Louisa is also on the call today. So, Louisa, if I say anything wrong, please feel free to add it to the chat and tell me off anytime. Thank you so much. She's been in the company for longer than I did, so I imagine she knows best as well, these sort of things.
Marvelous. Whenever someone asks for a suggestion of a good affordable whiskey, Arran is always the first choice. And Paul has thanked us for the clarifying of the question there. In terms of, obviously at the end of the call, folks, we're going to be giving out a discount for 15% off all the whiskies tried tonight, and that means you would get £44 after discount for this Arran. So yeah, for the price point and the quality, it is really good whiskey. So Mel says green apples, malt biscuits, citrus, and salty aftertaste. So yeah, that's excellent. Do you want to is there anything else you want to share on the 10-year-old Mariella, or do you want to talk about Arran in general before we come on to the next whiskey, or it's up to
Sure,
yourself?
I think maybe just to give people the time to finish off their drams, I'll just give a little introduction to actually Isle of Arran Distillers very quickly. And then if you want to start pouring yourselves the Arran Amarone, feel free to do so. But yeah, just so that we're all on the same, on the same page. I say Isle of Arran Distillers, of course, because as I said, we have 2 distilleries on the Isle of Arran. The only thing you really need to know about us is, first of all, we already discussed, like, relatively young, so started in 95, so almost 30 years old. So very complete, different history from other distilleries out there. Independent still to this day, which is great. It means we can follow the journey from barley to bottle without, compromising. So you hear me saying first fill or just saying bourbon cask or sherry cask. We only use our casks twice, so very strict cask policy. Everything unpeated these days comes from Lochranza distillery. So Arran single malt these days, we only produce unpeated whiskies up north, while at Lagg we produce heavily peated whiskies. So we have 2 completely different entities, like, on the same island, which is kind of fun. Also, we're quite experimental. We're always been since the beginning of time. It was a way to kind of like establish ourselves and also let other people know us. We've been known as wine cask finishes guys for a long time, and they kind of stuck with us to now. That's why you're trying a wonderful Amarone next. But we also experiment with peat, with barley, which is like to keep it like fun. And we have a nice balance of modern and traditional. When I take you around the distilleries, you'll see, some computerized, some not, wooden washbacks. It's very, quite unique and fascinating. But this is us in a nutshell, really. So yeah, I'm glad that I get to talk to you about both distilleries. But soon I'll show you some photos and we'll do some virtual tours as well. But in the meanwhile, let's talk about the Arran Amarone wine cask, which is obviously one of the best because it's finished in Italian wine. Yay! Anybody anybody a fan of Amarone wine? Have you ever tried Amarone wine?
Big fan of Amarone wine. Yeah.
Nice. I mean, the first thing you notice here is the color. And I know I'm not one of those, okay? I promise I'm not one of those that falls in love with the color first. But I have to say, this either looks like a rosé or an orange wine, like every year when it comes out. And it's 100% natural. It's fantastic stuff. And what we do here, we take liquid that has been in bourbon casks for 6-7 years. It really varies on what we have available at the distillery. So first build bourbon, and then we move it into wine casks. And we do it in Amarone, we do it in port, and we do it in Sauterne. So every year, come March, April, we do free, these free bottlings. It's literally a one-off per year. So I'm glad we're tasting it now, because you can find it now, and then maybe in 2-3 years' time, 2-3 months' time, it's not going to be as easy to find. But that finish from 9 to 18 months, again, it varies depending how fresh those casks are, how much they give in terms of color, how much they give in terms of flavor. So on average, I say, look at this whiskey as like a 7-year-old whiskey, okay? Unfiltered, uncolored, 50% ABV. And to me, it's like spring in a glass. It's all the best that Amarone has to offer, literally passed on into the whiskey. It is so subtle. It is so floral, like Turkish delight, rose, like water, orange water, but also cherries and chocolate, but light. If you're used to drink like sherry cask whiskeys, especially PX or Oloroso, those flavors can be quite in your face, or even other wines. Like if you go for like big reds, a lot of people use Bordeaux, or I don't know, we use Côte Rôtie in the past. A lot of tannins and very extreme flavors. With the Amarone, everything is lush and delicate and versatile, and it's beautiful. It's like such a beautiful dessert dram. I absolutely love it. And yeah, for those of you that don't know, Amarone is a red wine from northern Italy. You can find them also in the shop either called Ripasso, Valpolicella, or Amarone della Valpolicella. And it's made in a way that the grapes are left under the sun for a little bit longer, so they kind of caramelize, so the sugar content is a little bit higher. but then they're like gently treated. So there's like this grape molasses kind of gets collected and obviously fermented and then matured in oak. That's why we get those casks. And it's, expensive, but absolutely delicious, like versatile, gentle tannins, like so sort of like sweeter style of red wine that we get from Northern Italy.
Marvelous. There's some great comments on the color there, as you touched on. Say pink whiskey, lovely color to the Amarone. Kevin and Kev said looks like a sunset, which I think is the best way to describe it, because it is pink. If I have it down here below me, it's pink. If I hold it up to the light, it's almost ginger. It's like it's got an amazing color to it. It really does. We've some other great comments there. Graham's got a question about the sherry cask bodega, but Graham, that's going to be we're actually tasting that next, so we can discuss that then. Bob says, for the most successful red wine finish, for me, the most successful red wine finished whiskey I've had, perhaps the extra ABV has lifted this compared to the other 46%. Don't think I've seen a color like that. Very nice. The nose is amazing. Red fruit, funk forward, berry flavor. The wine influence sits perfectly in the background. No, it really is great. Well, more people get taste notes in, and I have a proper sip of it myself, Mariella. In terms of sourcing barrels like this, you mentioned the wine finish that Arran kind of became famous for. How does that start? Is it through brokers or relationships built with specific vineyards, or how would that?
There's very much relationships built. I think in the past we also worked that way. I mean, we work in both ways, I have to say. Like even, for example, for Lagg, sometimes a relationship, most of the time relationship, sometimes also tasks, companies that they can give us access to like certain things. But in this scenario, it's relationship based. We're not allowed to reveal exactly which vineyard or chateau or house kind of gives us the cask from, but we do have like a nice friendship deal in place so that each year we can access the cask that we need to do this finishing. They tend to, now that we're in a more like stable place, especially since the rebrand, that we can put out every year. The Amarone Porto Sauterne is pretty stable. We always go for the same people. In the past, in the very far past, where we could use whatever, and we used whatever, we used to also be able to write names of places on the labels. But since then, the rules have changed a lot. So now we have to be very careful what we write and what we say on our labels. So it's a fun game trying to get around not getting sued by companies by giving little hints, but not too much at the same time.
It's funny because there's been such successful recent kind of very public collaborations, like I think of the Green Spot Quails Gate and these few other kind of releases like that, where they're really championing that kind of collaboration. So you think some of the wine brands would be more amenable to it,
I think it depends also on, we are a small company at the end of the day, so we really have to, unless we build a relationship with another similar company, but I think certain bigger company can definitely offer more, and also in terms of volume, do more. While for us, it's very much like a one-off, per year, and we're bottling it now, and then we're gonna bottle it again in March, April. So it's more like a side thing that we do. We do sometimes even smaller things like the rare batches. I don't know if somebody has ever come across those, but we did champagne, we did a Bordeaux, we did other things, and you could tell we couldn't use specific names, so you have to get around with it. But we do like to work with small producers. One of I think the nice collaborations that we have is with a Calvados producer called Christian Drams. When we actually started Lagg, we got 40 casks from them, and we divided them between Lochranza and Lagg, and we filled them with new make on the same day at both distilleries, so that one day we can release a Calvados Dram, fully matured Lagg, and fully matured Arran that you can try side by side. So for small producers like that, we can do fine things.
Oh, excellent. We got some brilliant extra comments in there. So Kevin says berry flavor, the wine influence sits perfectly in the background, slightly old like aroma. Definitely Fry's Turkish delight going on in the nose and the palate. I can get that as well. Kevin and Kev's, in addition to red fruit, I'm getting a comforting oak note. That kind of the oaks and tannins, they definitely come through the more you sit with the dram. They kind of, you get hit with that berry at the start, and then it kind of develops, at least for me personally. Jamie says, nice mouthfeel, getting blackberries. Ian says, getting strawberries on the nose after being in the glass for a while. Smell of rose perfume, a taste of red fruit like cherry. Cranberries, red cherries, honey, tinned peas for me, says Mel. This would, with the discount, if you wanted to purchase one of these online after the tasting, it is going to be $45.90 post discount. So I think really good value for such an interesting whiskey. We were, I suppose, I don't know if there's something on the Amarone or the distillery you'd like to particularly focus on now, Mariella, or
No, I think the next thing I wanted to do, we can do it after the next whiskey or before. I just wanted to show people a little bit the island and show us where we are. But I'm happy to follow your guidance here.
I had a question actually, because drinking this kind of brought back 590s, Kevin. No, not quite. Brought back some memories for me. There was a Smugglers series you did a few years back. That was absolutely phenomenal. I think when I moved country, I left it behind, but it was done like a book, fake book on your wall.
I'm trying to look around to see if I have one behind me, but unfortunately not.
Yeah, those were some amazing cask fit, or were they? I can't remember, were they finishes or were they 100% single casks? But those were absolutely tremendous. I recommend anyone who pick one up on secondary market or is in a bar to try it. You mentioned the kind of Sauternes, Amarone, and the port cask. Are you planning any other kind of experimental big series like that, or anything kind of that creative?
So for the wine casks, for now, we only focus on those three. And if we do bring anything out, it's going to be either like a small batch, a single cask, or for specific markets. Or, for example, there is a 13-year-old port small batch available around the UK at the moment. But we normally bottle those for specific markets around the world. While actually we are doing a new series right now, and the last whiskey you'll try today is part of our new series. Yeah, we're staying away from. We're trying to stay away from your classic. Oh, look, this is very old Arran from the 90s, and it's super expensive and whatnot. And we're trying to create something that is a little bit more accessible, affordable. The official line is in a world where people just want to invest and buy and flip and put bottles on a shelf to, collect dust for a very long time. We would like to bottle a series that is still limited, but actually accessible for everybody, that allows you to invest on a good time now. So that it's a little bit more minimalistic, a little bit more interesting in terms of what's the liquid inside, or the story of the liquid inside, so that people don't feel too bad even buying maybe a second bottle and cracking it open and enjoying it with their friends. So, but the Smugglers were fantastic, because actually we didn't give off too much information about it. It was a mixture of different casks altogether. The presentation was fantastic too. It looked like a book, and then when you opened it, a bottle came out. It was very well thought. Even the Explorer series, I don't know if you ever come across those one in a tin box. Yeah, beautiful, picturesque, like almost postcard, vintagey look.
Yeah, no, that was another cracking one. There was one. Was it maybe this was part of the Smugglers, maybe I'm misremembering. Was it Devil's Punch Bowl? Was that a separate one, or one of the?
That was a separate one. Yeah, and we did 3 of those too. So there was 3 Smugglers, I think. Yeah, 3 in the Smugglers series, 3 Devil's Punch Bowl. We did the Icons of Arran too. There was like a Westie, the Eagles, the Rowan Tree. Yeah, we did a few throughout the years. And now we are on the Signature Series for Arran. But for Lagg, I think it's something to look at for the next few years, when we have a bit more stock on the ground as well.
Yeah, brilliant. I don't know about you guys on the chat, but the more that Amarone sits with me, the more that kind of wine comes through on the end. It's almost like the finish eventually evolves into like the finish of almost like a red wine, or the kind of berry tannins. It's a really really one of the most interesting whiskies I think I've sat with on one of these tastings for a while, in terms of the kind of 5 minutes after the initial sip, and how much it transforms both in the glass and in the mouth. Really, really interesting. So unless anyone's got any, yeah, Bob says 2 drinks in one, totally agree. Unless anyone's got any questions in the chat, we could slowly come into the bodega. I might even keep some of this Amarone just to compare. I was planning on doing the same with the 10, Mariella, but I think I've drank too much of it. There's maybe a dribble left in. But yeah, we'll give the sherry cask bodega a twist, unless there's something you wanted to cover before we go into that.
No, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's crack on into the sherry for the sherry bomb lovers in the group today. Any sherry cask fans?
I think you'd be better off saying, you know,
Wow. Yeah.
anyone who doesn't like sherry casks might be the more safer straw poll.
Oh yes. I love the chat. Nice. Okay, now I can see. Okay, everybody stepped up to it. So let me tell you about the Sherry Cask Bodega. So this is one that has a name, actually. So the bodega is the house of sherry. It's like, you know, saying the chateau for wine, or I don't know, the vigna for your Italian wines. Yeah. And we decided to call it Sherry Cask Bodega because we have also on the market the Cuore cask, the Boffy, which is like an analogy between, like, you know, a little Scottish house and a little cask. Here we're using only Oloroso, first fill, second fill sherry casks from this lovely bodega in Spain called Miguel Martin. And we never really had a core range product that was only focused on sherry. Like, we did small batches, single casks, other like sherry cask finishes too. Like, we've done all of that, but since the rebrand, together with the Barrel Reserve, we wanted to bring out a sherry cask strength, unfiltered, uncolored Arran version. And we had access to very good casks, very good Oloroso casks, so we decided to go ahead with it. And I always tell people, don't expect this to be your sherry bomb, like, you know, like your, I don't know, like your Abelauer Abuna back in the days, of your you know, Glendronach or Glenallachie. Like, it's a lot more intense and complex for me, in terms of, it's not just sweetness. So it's not just like sherry, concentrated sherry sweetness. There's a lot more layering, like it's ripe figs and tobacco, and it's a bit leathery, it's a bit dry. Like, you do get the oak and also like a bit of like the resin. It still has a lovely like warmth, like, you know, that richness and complexity, but it's not like your sweet, like, you know, style of sherry bomb that I think a lot of people have in mind when they think about sherry bombs. And obviously I could be absolutely wrong. This is my like personal opinion. You can also use the chat and tell me, no, Mariella, you're wrong. You're just telling us lies, and you can absolutely, like, you know, tell me off anytime. But I personally think, when I compare it to other sherry casks, this is very wintry for me. But one of those winters when I want something a little bit darker and a little bit drier, and just, yeah, a little bit complex, not just ultra sweet.
Yeah, excellent. What was sorry if you've said this already, I was checking the price, but the type of sherry again, Mariella? Oloroso.
Actually, we mostly use Oloroso, like 90% of our casks, because our new make and spirit tends to be quite sweet already. And Oloroso really help us balance, like, you know, that sweetness out very well. That's why we use it for the 10 and the sherry.
Yeah. No, I think Jamie's comment here is, I think, an excellent one. A sherry cask for grown-ups, like, you know, this is the it's like a sophisticated film, and the other, you know, Abelauer Abuna is like the Marvel movies of sherry casks. Meltz's Bothy cask was amazing, loved it. Steve says great legs on the glass. This one bottle that evaporates the fastest from my cabinet. Like the charred crust on a creme brulee. That's an excellent taste, no, Paul. Easy to drink, cask strength, super balanced, warm, rich, lingering finish, says Bob. I used to have a bottle of this. It wasn't around for long, says David. There's some other similar comments, some fantastic questions. In terms of the question that was asked earlier by Graham Watson, in terms of the volume of this release and how long, it's how many times it's produced, once a year, is it, or?
This gets at least, I want to say, I could be wrong, but I think the sherry cask at least 2 or 3 times a year gets bottled. It's one of those that is available, should be available on the shelves all year round. So the Barrel Reserve, the 10 quarter cask and sherry cask, we produce them with that in mind, with whiskey that should be always available all year round in your, in the shop. So yeah, it's only the wine cask finishes and the old age shipments, like the year 18, year 25, they tend to be bottled instead of September, October, only once. So you see them in autumn, winter time, but then if they disappear, you will only see them back back in September, October the next year.
Excellent. Chocolate raisins, says Bob as well, which is an excellent tasting note. Kevin says lovely peppery aftertaste, perfect for a cold evening. Strong and almost like rum. That's actually a really good, like a proper rum. That's been aged. I can totally see that. Definitely. The Frank D says for cask strength, it's easily drinkable neat. 100% agree. And Martin says Christmas in a
glass. I know I talk too much about food. Unfortunately, I'm Italian, so I think you kind of expected that anyway. But if I can give you any recommendation ever, is one that I love to give at my tastings, is when Christmas time comes, get yourself some nice mince pies and a bit of sherry cask in a pipette, stab your mince pie, let it soak through, and then give it a minute and then go and have a little bite. You are welcome. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do comes Christmas. It's amazing. It's such a nice treat.
That does sound amazing. I can really see this working with mince pies. 100%. I'm one of those people, Mariella, I plan all these great drinks over Christmas and I buy all the whiskies and the ingredients and everything, and then I end up drinking the cheapest IPA out of the shop, and or being too hungover to actually enjoy these amazing flavor pairings I've cooked up for myself.
I know. I'm exactly like you. When Christmas comes and I'm not like working as such, I literally tend to drink whatever is given to me that I don't have to think about. Like, what is that? French red wine? Sure, I'll drink it. Thank you so much. I'll drink whatever. But yeah, no.
I moved to Scotland, I land in home just before Christmas and go to my local bar in Kinmare, Crowley's Bar. Have far too many pints of Guinness and chats with people I haven't seen in a long time, and then that's just you. There's no your palate is ruined for the because you're drinking the next day and the next day and the next day, and it's almost irrelevant what you're pairing up after that. Once you hit it too hard the first night, I have no self-control. Jamie says just add clotted cream for perfection. I can see that would really top it off. That'd be 100%. Bob says roll on Christmas. Can't wait to infuse my mince pies with this whiskey. 100%. Well, I'd recommend, Bob, buying 6 of them after this tasting, and then that just make sure that you have some left by Christmas. Mel says now you said that, Mariella, I'm getting figs and dates now. Excellent.
Fantastic. Right, before we move on to the next whiskey, which is actually going to be a peated one, if that's okay with everybody, I'd like to share my screen just to show you a little bit Arran and also a little bit of how he came to be. I swear to God, I'll be quick, and I did tell Luke that if I'm talking too much, he can stop me at any time, so he's aware.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe we'll get bored of listening though, Mariella,
But yeah, let me just scroll through real quick. We already did all of this. So has anybody been to Arran, by the way? Let me know in the chat if you are there now or if you've been before. But I just wanted to show you where we are. This is a lovely Isle of Arran. The pink dot here, southwest coast. Super easy to get to. I imagine you're all scattered around the UK. But if you just come up to Glasgow, you go to Ayrshire, you can easily get over to Arran. I normally tell people come to Glasgow, drive down to Ardrossan, which is a little village in Ayrshire. It takes you around an hour. If you're Italian like me, in 45 minutes, you can definitely make it. And then another hour over on the ferry, and you're literally there in less than 2 hours. If you wanted to drive around the whole island, 2 hours, literally every quarter of the island is half an hour drive. So super tiny, super easy, and a very beautiful place. The distilleries are as far as possible from each other. We like a complicated situation. So we have Lochranza all the way in the north, between the mountains, like, looking out over the bay, where we make the Arran single malt since '95, and then Lagg all the way down south, where we started making heavily peated spirit in 2019. So real quick, what do you need to know about Arran? Not only logistically is very different from the rest, you can tell here, it's kind of like surrounded on both sides, so it's kind of like sheltered. We also have the Gulf Stream that comes from the south that makes it a little bit warmer in the south too, so it's kind of a little its own microclimate. But what is more like known and also stunning about Arran is the geology of the island itself. That's why Arran is known as Scotland in miniature. Because if you look at this lovely map, I hope there are no geologists in the group today. Please don't call me upon this. But you can just see how different it is, right? So it feels like Arran was attached to the mainland, divided in two. So now we have highlands in the north and lowlands in the south. You can literally see the highland boundary fault line is essentially just chopping it up right in the middle in two. So a little fun fact is, obviously for the Scotch Whisky Association, we are part of the islands or the Highlands region of Scotland. But we really like to say to people that we have a Highland distillery that produces non-peated whiskey in the north and a lowland distillery that produces heavily peated whiskey in the south. And Arran is the only unique place where you can get that. So when you come see us, you'll arrive first in Brodick. That's where your ferry arrives. And then we'll literally drive up north. We have beautiful mountains, like Coat Fell is our highest mountain if you are into hiking, bird watching. You can see the Sleeping Warrior from afar too. When you get to Lochranza, you're very much in the highlands. We have stags, red squirrels, golden eagles, otters, the whole shebang. Is beautiful and very, very highland feeling like. Also, I highly recommend if you're a golfer, obviously a tiny little island, but 7 golf courses on the island, as you do. And Lochranza golf course is one of the prettiest for me because not only you get to see the castle, but you have more of a chance of deer literally roaming around as you play, which is pretty cool. When you come down south, complete different view. This is actually one of my photos. I wanted to show how close Kintyre is. If there's any fan of Campbelltown whiskies in the group today, you'll know they're literally just over here. You can wave at the Campbelltown distilleries from Arran. They're super close. I highly recommend people coming over to Arran and then go over to Campbelltown. And then if you want to stretch it even further, you can go and over to Ireland. You can do all of that by ferries and by driving. And the southern part of the island is completely different. So Northern Ireland on the right, you have Elsa Craig, Southern Ayrshire. Also, as you can see from the photo, it never rains, it's always sunny, 24 hours a day. It's been named before the Hawaii of Scotland by my brother, who came once in August, and there were 25 degrees. So for now, it's forever being called the Hawaii of Scotland. And you can see seals. You can see dolphins, basking sharks in the south, swans, all sorts of birds. It's beautiful. I come from a very beautiful part of southern Italy. I come from like near Sorrento, the Amalfi Coast, but trust me when I say that I fell in love with Arran the first time I visited, and now I find excuses every month to go and see it because it's absolutely stunning, magical place, even in the rain. All you need is just a fireplace and a whiskey in your hands and everything is sorted anyway. So I hope I convinced you to come.
Yeah, no, it's impressive. You should be working for Scottish tourism, not Arran.
It's next on my agenda.
Anyone who tells me that they're from southern Italy and they like visiting Scotland, I'm like, this person is either crazy or lying to me. But I'll take your word for it. No, I'm being facetious, obviously. But the Stuart has said, what's the best time to travel to avoid the midges?
I know. Yeah, September to April, actually, Kevin, is a very good shout. September to April. I think I will avoid I definitely avoid June, July, August. Like I will never go, like ever. May depends, I think, on the weather-ish, but definitely September to April is a very good shout.
Joe, I'm actually never affected by midges. It's one of those things. My partner gets bitten alive, and I just
I get bitten alive. But I wish people told me before I moved to Scotland about midges, about ticks. I don't know if you ever experienced any of these things, but finding out about these things is, that was not a nice Scottish welcome, I have to say.
A dog who comes in this time of year from the walk. We were just walking before actually this whiskey tasting, and I have to, in the winter you have to towel him off because he's soaking wet, and this time of year you have to like brush him off because he's just crawling with feckin' ticks.
Wild. Yeah. But then again, I mean, Italy's like, if you go now, we have mosquitoes everywhere too. So there is, there are bad little things everywhere. So
thing was in Marseille last summer, and my partner got absolutely bitten alive by mosquitoes, and I didn't even notice them. So maybe it's my
special blood.
white privilege. I don't know, but it's.
We should know what do you do? What is your perfume? What do you do? Do you smoke cigars? Apparently, people told me that if you smoke cigars, the smoke of cigars.
I definitely don't smoke cigars. I think I've just been repellent to most things in my life. Friends, women, success. So it's just it fits with the vibe.
Moving on to the next whiskey, then.
We've got some great comments though about Islay. People saying there's a couple of people who've got aqua bikes because they've said they've cycled around it on their way to Islay, which is very impressive. But I don't know, that's a terrible joke. Sorry. And there's another person. Corey says they've got an elderly aunt in there because they say I'd go there to see the old deer. But so yeah, Graham says circumnavigated by bikes. Bob says camped there many years ago, not long after Arran opened, drove around the island clockwise and counterclockwise, on my list to revisit again now the Lagg is open. Mark says yes, I've been, bought the 18 in port cask finish. Frank D says on the bucket list for sure. Steve says been to both Arran distilleries. Jeff says was on Arran 3 years ago, did a tour of the distilleries. Lewis says went to Arran a couple of years ago, lovely trip around, went to Lochranza, but not to Lagg. And Richard says so there's the mosquitoes don't really like whiskey and cigars. So yeah, if you like whiskey and cigars, there's a good top tip. I did see actually something on the midges, right? Not joking, I'm going to try it this summer, is used coffee beans. If you dry them out, coffee grinds, apparently if you dry them out and you put them outside and you light them on fire, and it doesn't smell great for you, but apparently it does actually repel them really, really effectively. Apparently it's better than those what do they call those candles that you burn in the name of the scent?
I don't remember the name either, but citronella, is that what you?
Yeah, well definitely I think that's the one. But so before we as we maybe people are starting to comment in on the Lagg in there, so we should taste it. But tell me, is the Macrimoor no more, is it?
That sounded like a little song. It's the Macrimoor no more.
No more.
No more Macrimoor. The Macrimoor is being bottled every year. Right now we're releasing a 10-year-old and a 46% ABV, and a cask strength version, a 56% ABV. Since it's been a while now that we don't do it in batches anymore. It was even before the rebrand, so it's just the Macrimoor. But the truth is that since 2017, when we purchased land to build Lagg Distillery, we also stopped distilling peated spirit at Lochranza. So we are not actively replenishing our peated stock at Arran because the peated production is focused at Lagg. But we are those two entities, as I said at the start, they're completely different. So Macrimoor is not being made at Lagg or will not be made at Lagg. Lagg is Lagg single malt. Macrimoor is Arran peated. So we will bottle it for a number of years still, but eventually you might not be, we might stop. But for now, it's still around, so no panic there. You don't have to panic, right?
As long as there's old peated stock from the original distillery, you'll keep doing Macrimoor, is that it? And then eventually, as it becomes rarer and rarer, Macrimoor will as well, or?
I don't know yet exactly. I don't know. I actually don't know exactly what the the line exactly is. I wonder if maybe we're waiting for the Lagg to reach 10 years of age and then stop the Macrimoor. I don't really know. I think we're just for now we just know that we're going to bottle it for the next few years, and then I imagine one day we'll make a decision based on what stock we have and what we're doing with Lagg as well. We're in a lucky position that we can choose, but we do have I'm sure that we will use the peated Arran stock for other things, as we do now anyway, like single casks for markets or small batches for markets, or like, you know, other things like that. So yeah, the stock, the peated Arran stock actually reached 10 years of age a few years ago now. That's why we released the Macrimore 10. So we do have, you know, we do have some stock of peated Arran in our warehouses. Yeah.
Marvelous. So the Kilmaroy, if I'm pronouncing it right, tell us a bit more about this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for already tasting it and not waiting for me. The Lagg Kilmorey. So I see also some of the questions. So the Lagg Kilmorey is the first core range whiskey of the Lagg range. It is this. I don't know if you can see it. This guy over here. The camera is obfuscating it, but it is actually 3 years old. First fill bourbon casks matured only, so only first fill bourbon barrels have been used for this, and it is 50 ppm barley wise. Barley and peat come together from like Aberdeenshire, so it's like mainland sort of Scotland. So I always say it is heavily peated. You can say also maybe peatier than some Islay whiskies, like, you know, there are maybe 35, 40 ppm. But don't look at this as like, you know, a heavily peated Islay whiskey. I actually think this is the best described as a West Coast style whiskey. It's much closer to me to a Campbelltown or a Lagg than it is to an Islay whiskey, personally, because the peatiness is there. You can feel it. You can, as soon, especially the bourbon cask, the Kilmorey. When you open it, like, it just fills a room like very quickly, and it's a very grassy, heathery, bonfire smokiness. It's not medicinal. It's not seaweedy. You know, it's not coastal. You might get a bit of sapidity, like saltiness, but like it's not predominant anyway. But you have this very nice balance between this earthy, grassy, like dirty in a good way peatiness, and bourbon cask sweetness, like, you know, the vanilla, the zest, like, you know, the lemon zest is very creamy. Again, creme brulee a little bit, very fresh, quite grassy, quite floral. 46% ABV, unfiltered, uncolored. Kilmorey is the parish, essentially, where Lagg Distillery is. So it's our place of origin. That's why we decided to call it Lagg Kilmorey, our first core range product. Yeah, we're very excited. Tell us what you think, especially if you like peated whiskey, because yeah, it's everything is brand new for us still. So it's nice to get it to people so that people can try it too. But the way I see it is that the perfect hiking dram, or the perfect campfire dram, when you want some, like, you know, nice warm smoke, like grassy smoke, but also a touch of sweetness that, like, you know, keeps you happy.
Marvelous. Yeah, I at the very start when you held up the bottle, I couldn't hear you for a second. There was a bit of a lag in the line.
Oh,
But,
you didn't. You did not.
There is some great comments coming through there. I actually must say, before I come to your description of it being a combination between a kind of Campbelltown and Lagg is really accurate, because it doesn't have. It's got parts of the Lagg, but doesn't have that really kind of charcoal oiliness to the same extent. But then it's got massive elements of like a Springbank. It's actually been ages since I've had a Springbank. Can't afford to drink it anymore. But it doesn't have the same. It doesn't quite have the same like brininess as the Springbank. So it is like you've mashed the two of them together and took out some of the more extreme elements. But in terms of comments, we've got here the smoother. Smother yourself in whiskey. Oh, that was the back in the midges. Sorry, I've missed. I started in the wrong place. So we've got the sorry, where am I? Lost my place here now. So Kevin says subtle aroma, lovely, delicate, smoky taste. Very nice, says Martin, like roasting apples over a bonfire. Jamie says smoked seaweed in a nice way. Outstanding for its age. For such a young whiskey is a lot of flavor. It really does not taste like a 3-year-old. And that, but then that's one of the things with peat, and I see this with a lot of new Irish distilleries now. their young whiskey doesn't, you know, the peat masks some of the not saying that doesn't make a really good whiskey, but it is a great kind of a mask for the age of a whiskey. Alex says for such a young whiskey, there's a lot of flavor, vanilla, fish oil, then heather, peat as well. So we got like licking a freshly painted fence, says David. Means it's very fruity initially on the palate before the bonfire vanilla creeps in. Really nice dram. Water opens up the taste. Fresh grass peat on the nose. Finish builds very sweet. So it's going down really well. Chris says very smooth, but with a great peat kick. Reminds me of a tame Port Charlotte. So that's excellent. There was a couple of questions, I think, if I'm scroll up. My thing is I hope I'm coming through okay, because my laptop's acting a bit slow at the moment. But Lewis said Lewis Gibson says nearly forgot the Lochranza tour guide we had was great. Just let us pick any old whiskey from the bar area as a tasting, including rare stuff, their festival run thing, etc. Well worth a visit. Can you attest to that, Mariella? Can you go in and pick?
100%. The team on the island are fantastic. They're such wonderful people, and you're not the first person that told me that they were, you know, they turned around, like, you know, for a good 2-3 minutes and all of it, like, you know, and let you pick something from the bar. But no, they're wonderful people. We do such nice tastings and also tours. We started doing warehouse tours as well now, which is super cool. But yeah, they're wonderful people. And most of the people actually that work there you know, either move to the island or work at the distillery just out of passion, which is what you want. So it's, yeah, lovely, lovely people. I'm glad you had a good experience, Lewis.
No, that is true. That combination of people who are there because they're passionate about the craft, and or people who love the place they're from. That is the perfect combination. You're right. Stephen says, what's the ppm of the Lagg malt?
50. Yeah.
Brilliant. And Martin's a big fan of the Macrimore cast strength. So that's excellent. Sorry, the comments here from me are loading really, really quickly as I scroll down. There's an issue on my laptop for some reason. So Stuart says more peaty warmth than smoke, vanilla cream. Adding a bit of water brings out the creamier, oilier taste. Very nice. Says Frank, I might have, yeah. And then Frank D says sweetness like toffee apples. Excellent. So in terms of the obviously the decision to purchase a second site, open a second distillery, but in terms of the kind of the branding, the stories. I remember the first release. When was that? 2 years ago? Was it the first Lagg came out, Mariella?
We did an inaugural series with like 3 releases in 2021, and then the core range came out last year.
Perfect. I was trying to see.
Sorry, 22. Sorry, 22. I
think I have one of them here somewhere. I'm not going to go looking for it, but I think I did.
No, I saw it before. Actually, you have the box. I can see it from your screen. It's a white and a black box below in the shelves. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, thank you, Stefan, sir.
And Steph's got, yeah. Sarah's got a couple there.
Thanks.
But in terms of the branding, the idea, the kind of to make the bottle kind of so unique, but also so different than Arran, what was the kind of the process into that?
So first things first, one of like a few reasons why we decided to open a new site. One was it's kind of a given. It was just to welcome more customers. If you've been to Arran, you know also how popular it is. It's a tourist destination. On a good year, we have 100,000 visitors coming to Lochranza. Arran has a population of like 4,500 people. So you can imagine how many people come over to Arran because it's a beautiful place, and also to come and have a lovely whiskey. So one of the reasons was being able to welcome more customers. Another reason was warehouse space. So actually the first thing we did when we purchased land was building 3 warehouses, and then we went on to build our distillery, and then we built 3 more warehouses. So they were actually now maturing Lochranza in both sites and Lagg only at Lagg. And it'd be fun to see also if there is any difference in terms of like maturing, you know, with the microclimate on the island. And also moving the peated production from Arran to another side. Macrimore was popular, and we saw people really liked, like, you know, peated whiskies and Macklemore. So we thought if we were to open a new distillery, we would focus on the peated aspect of it, also to draw a very definite line between the two brands and the two distilleries. So we built Lagg. Let me show you some photos so that you can see it too, which is very modern, it's very beautiful. And the idea behind, excuse me while I scroll very quickly through historical photos of, the idea behind Lagg as a brand as well was obviously, like, something peated. This is a distillery, like, as it is. So it's shaped like the island too. So you have highlands and lowlands. You see it also on the bottle. If you see a bottle here, see this line? It's like a higher and a lower bottle width. If you see the logo, it essentially represents the north of Arran, the south of Arran is where the distillery is located. So the little dot is a distillery on the sea. It's on a cliff, so completely different from Lochranza, which is nested by the mountains. So when we looked at a branding, we wanted something that looked a bit like it was coming from the sea. So very natural elements like Arran, but a little bit more sea, coastal focused. So you have the glass, it's a little bit tinted, like, sort of recycled, like, blue tinted glass that looks like sea glass. The cork is all like natural sand color and kind of like minimalistic with this black and white, which really like represents, like, the peatiness of it. But yeah, very natural, like, minimalistic, sort of like a new look as well. I hope you like it.
No, it does. It looks tremendous, and I'd love to hear some W Club members' thoughts on that as well. The Chris says the price on this. So this was £45 after the 15% discount. And I think Kevin's already put in the retail price on our site for that as well. So yeah, it's great value for what it is. I know it's young, but it doesn't matter. Age is just a number, Mariella. When it tastes this good. That sounded better than I actually intended it to. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Do we want to do a little comparison side by side between Arran and Lochranza?
I'm also conscious. I just realized that we actually have a sixth whiskey, obviously, to come on to today as well. I was thinking, we're going to come on to the last one. We're in no rush. I'm like, we've got 2 more left.
No, actually, let's do that. Why don't we pour ourselves a Lagg Curry Gravy, so that you can start also drawing comparisons between the Kilmorey and Curry Gravy. I'll tell you about it too, and then while you enjoy it, I'll also show you the differences between Arran and Lagg. I have this nice side-by-side presentation so that we can cover things quickly between the two.
Sounds like
but yeah, I'm actually answering your question if you don't mind, just because Mark asked, did you say your new make was really sweet for Lagg? Actually, our Arran new make is very sweet. Not very sweet. I mean, it is elegant, like floral, like fruity, like it almost tastes like a pear, like, eau de vie, like a pear distillate, while our Lagg new make tastes very much like a mezcal. If you ever had a mezcal before, it's a very subtle, creamy, oily, like sweetness, but then you have this very dried leaves, like smoke. It's a little bit funky, like a mezcal. So it's the closest thing I could think of is mezcal.
Yeah, I suppose it's one of those difficult ones, especially when you're as yourself, you coming from a country like Italy, produce fantastic wines and all this, where sweetness is obviously in whiskey is not necessarily a measure of actual sugar content, but it's that flavor, those flavor profiles that evoke that sweetness in us. So I get what you're saying in terms of that fruitiness as well. Yeah. And Bob's question there about was the reason behind the stopper design on the top of the Lagg design?
I think we just liked something different and something that looks sort of like natural. I had a good feel for it. There's not any specific reason behind it.
Fair enough. Good answer.
Yeah. Not everything is a 5-minute answer. Thank God for that. All you're trying now is the Lagg Curry Gravy. Curry Gravy is another, calling it a village, I think it would do it a disservice. It's really like a tiny little area that you can actually see from Lagg, which is a little bit like more to the right, like going towards the east of the island. And it was actually one of those places that was famous for illegal distillation back in the day. So there were rumors, and there have been some findings as well around that area of people distilling illegally. Arran, just like Campbelltown, fried, like, during the illegal whiskey making times, like, 17th, 18th centuries. If you think that Campbelltown was like, the place to be for illegal distilleries, and Arran was just like, a little boat ride away. A lot of families and a lot of people in Arran survived by making whiskey illegally and also smuggling it. And obviously there were a lot of that happened on the southern part of the island, away from the mountains. Like, you have these beautiful like rolling hills, lots of access to like, good water, and lots of places to hide to produce whiskey too, but also access to the sea. You could just go on a beach and just like, smuggle whiskey too. So the south of the island especially was had a pretty big history in illegal whiskey making. So what happens here is we get whiskey that is 3 years old, matured in first fill bourbon, and then we move it into first fill Oloroso sherry cask for 6 months. So this whiskey is 3.5, and again 50 ppm. The only difference apart from the maturation is the fact that this is also bottled at 55% ABV. If you're fans of peat sherry combos, you will like this, because that mezcali, like, a little bit more in your face sort of grassy smoke, it's toned down a little bit. It's much more round, much more subtle. It's more like a bonfire that you get at the back of your mouth when you drink this. It's not as like, in your, like a punch in your face as the Kilmore can be. And obviously the sherry just gives you like all this super creamy, like dark fruits, like very like dark berries, like blackberries, like raspberries, but also again like figs maybe covered in chocolate this time. It's a little bit more chocolatey, like more like dark chocolate. And yeah, it's like a little bit more towards winter, I have to say, than maybe like the Arran sherry cask is for me. So it's a very nice combination of peat and sherry together at 55% ABV. I think it doesn't need any drop of water personally. I think it's amazing as it is.
No, 100%. It's as you say, those dark chocolate notes. It's the first sip I took, because there was a couple of people in the chat. I was reading the comments and listening to you as I took the first sip, and I thought, well, there's not a huge difference. And then suddenly it all opens up.
Yeah.
It goes. It's like you're driving on the same road and you just take a left. It's really, really interesting. Mel in the chat says, I'm already on the. Oops, sorry, I've actually lost the chat again.
That's okay.
Actually lost.
Some of these comments are amazing.
Yeah, no, they are. The dark chocolate Amora is a great comment. But Mel says, sorry, I'm already on the curry crave. Is that how you pronounce it?
Curry gravy.
Curry crave.
Perfect Scottish accent right there.
Well, it's better than mine. And both nice drams, but stands up above the Kilmore. Look, you're killing my children's inheritance with 6 bottles. Well, you have to speculate to accumulate, Smoke and sherry, so good. Tasting much older than it actually is. What size casks do you use?
Hogsheads. In this case, it all hogsheads. Previously, we have been using firkins, so they were actually very tiny. That's why they impacted so much color. But this is all hogsheads doing.
Hogshead is actually what my female classmates called me in school. So
Have you used this before? But guys in the chat, please tell me if this joke has been used before. Or this is the first time.
Hogshead, pig's face. That's what I'm saying. Luke. Kevin says dark chocolate. Oh, sorry, I've read that one already. Sorry, folks. These Lagg ones are not my taste, despite liking peaty whiskey. Somehow strangely odd. Well, I appreciate your honesty, Kevin and Kev. And that's why we do digital drams, so people can explore and feel comfortable in their kind of, step outside of their comfort zone, but also explore within it. Taste more of a richer compromise between sherry and peat. Corey says, "Oh my, getting a marmalade taste," which is an interesting one. I didn't get that, but now that you've said it, maybe I do. I'm not sure if that's just the power of the suggestion. So, and Steph is confirmed first time original joke. So, there you go. So yeah, and Mark Palmer, it's his favorite so far. Martin says, was moving the hogshead to help out. Must have been a lot of freaking casks to match otherwise.
It's
Two
a lot
hops
of
and
freaking
outputs.
scarce. I don't know actually. I think it's because with Arran we do hogsheads too, so we have a good supply. So with Lagg, obviously, I mean the warehouse team share is the same. So distilling team obviously is different. The VC team of course is different, but the warehouse people are the same. So I imagine because we have good casks for Arran, we use the same good casks for Lagg too. Firkins are good when you want something done extremely quickly. Like, like if you actually want to get something out real quick, you use firkins because in 2 months you reach the 6 months that you will reach in a hogshead. And we have used them. We have used Oloroso firkins before, but I don't think we are using them. I don't know if we're going to use them maybe for some special Lagg in the future, but for the curry gravy is all hogsheads. It also gets bottled a few times a year. So hogsheads is just a safe bet, like a safe option for us, I like to think.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, makes sense. So we've got, it's interesting because there's in the chat we've got Chris Friend has agreed with Kevin and Kev that it's they normally like peated, but they're not really enjoying this. Whereas Stephen has said, wow, curry gravy is about the nicest peated, I presume he means whiskey I've ever had. He said seated, which is maybe shows how good he's enjoying it. Mel said just had the Arran 13 delivered yesterday. We're looking forward to this weekend. Mel, is that the 13-year-old exclusive, the whiskey shop private cask? Jamie says, love the idea of a laid back seated whiskey in response to what Stephen said. Frankly, he said chocolate and smoke, but only slight smoke, perhaps not as pronounced after the Kilmurray, but cigar malt for sure. If I smoked, or for those that do, well, Frank, now if you want to get rid of the midges, you need to. And Paula said, I've noticed the spelling is getting worse as the drams flow on. I can't think of why. But the in terms of the obviously those two really polar opposite reactions are actually probably in the 2 years I've been doing this, or 2.5 years, I think that's probably the strongest on each end. People have said, oh, I like this, I don't like this. But to say, not for me, best peat whiskey ever, that's quite a contrast. Do you get that a lot in tastings with the Lagg, Mariella?
Yeah, I actually think it's unfair. I don't, because they're so different from each other, and I think they're made for different times, and they're made for different scenarios, different times. I personally like the Kilmurray more because I like a cleaner, more direct, neater dram. But you can give me a Lagg any day on where the weather is colder. I'm like, I could, yeah, Lagg, or as an after dinner as well. Lagg is fantastic. A cigar as well, I totally agree. Cheese, chocolate, the whole thing, I totally get it. I'm actually happy that we do this way because it's an Arran thing too. I always say we don't do your classic 10, 12, 15, 18, 21 tasting, and it's all like a different variation of the previous one. I feel like it's a lot of fun to talk about every single product in a very unique way. And maybe you go home thinking this is not the best of the night, but you think, oh, I like this, this, and that, but today I'll get this one, and maybe in the future I'll get the other one when this one finishes, and you have a different experience, every time. So I think it's fair to do it that way. I also noticed a lot of young distilleries these days do, this is our, I don't know, Lagg Mariella edition, which is a little bit of peat, a bit of wine, a bit of bourbon, a bit of sherry together. And there's always variation of different combinations of things put together. I think it's very refreshing to just do, this is our bourbon and this is our sherry. And you get to understand us, exactly for who we are. And you get to experience our spirit, and our liquid for what it is, straight away at such a young age. Is a bit brave, no?
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. So the Frank D's had a great comment as well. It's like a gentler Ardbeg Corrie Vecken, which is a very high praise. Because I know for any peated whiskey drinker I know, the Corrie Vecken is an absolute S tier whiskey.
I'm laughing because Paul now used the word pleated instead of peated. Sorry. I
No,
just
no,
like.
no, you're dead right to point it out. And Bob said Lagg would do well in the blind tasting. Yeah, definitely so. And that's Zachary Mariella. People ask me what my favorite whiskey is. All depends on the time you drink it, and that's so true. The analogy going back to the Amarone and the wine and that the Hogshead one was the first time I made that joke, but this is something that everyone on here has probably heard me say a million times. But it's always like when you go on holidays and you try a wine in the vineyard and you're like, wow, this is the best wine ever, and then you buy a few bottles and bring it back home and you're like, oh, what were we thinking? Because it is about the environment, the temperature, the weather, everything about it, how relaxed you are. It all feeds into what's good for the right moment.
True. I really think I don't know why for me Lagg is very Scotland in a way. It's like very like when you go for a hike, when you go like somewhere in nature up here, like for me it's very it's very Lagg, like the rainy, like if I can use a Scottish word, like those trick days, and you just want something cozy and a little bit smoky. I also, because we're talking about food today, try Lagg with some salmon. I make some amazing canapes. I highly recommend you. If you get like a nice oat cake and you whip some ricotta with salt, pepper, and chives and lemon zest, and you put some smoked salmon on top, and you wet the salmon with a bit of Lagg, you can have like a Lagg, marinated salmon to offer a starter as canapes. Is one of the things that I do the most, like in my house when I have new guests that I never tried, or people that are not Scottish and want to try Scottish salmon for the first time. And then I offer a little Lagg Kilmorey on the side is a win every single time.
I can imagine it working really, really well. But yeah, some cured salmon or even some salmon gravlax, whatever.
Yeah.
Cured in the I can imagine that working absolutely amazing. Yeah. And the Dreek day is 100%. It is, and also your preferences in terms of people, whether they like peated or don't like peated or like this peat but not the other one. There are so many. I mean, not to bring it back to myself, but obviously it's an example I've used in this tasting people from before. One of the reasons I love peated whiskey is because I grew up in a part of Ireland where we burn turf all the time. It was the smell in the air. It reminds me of home. And it always used to, I said this before in the chat, it always remind me of hugging my grandmother because she used to have a stove going in the house the whole time, burning peat. So everything, even when she left the house, her clothes smelled like peat. So when you drink it, it just reminds you of that. That moment brings you back to that childhood core memory. And I think whether or not we realize that in all the flavors we drink in the Amarone or any of these, there's some part of your brain, and people bring up taste notes that is pulling something back that's out of our control. We just pull back to that moment, and it's amazing. The way that flavor and taste does that, both in not just in whiskey, but in all alcohol or all drink and food as well. Steve says infused food is starting to be a trend. I think it's been a trend for a while, Steve, but I get what you're saying. It's maybe more in vogue, maybe, but yeah, the chat goes more unhinged the more we drink. I totally agree. And spelling wise, he clarifies there, Stefan sir. Quality blue cheese would pair well, I feel. 100%.
100%. Blue cheese and smoky whiskey has been done since the beginning of time, and it's gonna be done for the rest of the time because it's a combination that works every time. So 100%.
Oh no, you're dead right. Although my favorite combination of blue cheese, although peated whiskey works really well, is a really sweet like PX whiskey. Something that's like a massive contrast, something that shouldn't work, and then it does. It's a great one to contrast.
We did a tasting last year in Italy with a good friend of mine, Claudio, runs the Whiskey Club Italia, which is like one of the biggest whiskey clubs, obviously in Italy. And he invited a cheese maker from like the Alps to come, and he had this aged ricotta. So imagine ricotta, but it's like solid, but he has this very farmyardy, slightly smoky, sort of age to it. And we had it with Kilmorey, and I think it was the best thing I've ever had in my life too.
That's amazing. I love ricotta. I don't think I've ever tried an aged one. And really, that's a phenomenal pairing.
Highly recommend. If you go to a nice Italian deli, I'm sure they can get you some for a very high price.
I can imagine. Any nice Italian delis in Glasgow, no?
Oof, we have so many in Glasgow. God, surrounded by Italians here, which is nice. I feel like
every time I turn the corner in Glasgow, there's an Italian like Lewis Capaldi, Paolo Nutini. It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Only the best. Cheapy shops, ice cream shops, pasta shops, pizza shops. Yeah.
That's true. And Corey's provided us with a very nice segue. It's 6 whiskies. I won't get up in the morning, Mr. Luke. And I think you might be right, but it is time it's good probably time to come on to the 6th whiskey. He says, barely able to say. And so maybe while we're pouring that one, the signature, Arran Signature.
Yeah, I'm actually sharing my screen for this just because it's easier to. It is new, so I want you to see it well because it's if my presentation decides to work, obviously, just because it's brand new and it looks a little bit different from the others. So this is it. This is a signature series Barrel Bonfire. So I mentioned it before. It's a new limited edition series, Arran. We're doing 4 in this range. This is the 2nd signature series because it's our very first time. It's the first time that our master distillery manager gets to put a signature on a series. So we had for a very long time an amazing master distiller called James McTaggart. We owe him a lot. He implemented a lot of changes in our distillery production, cask policy that made us who we are today. And then a few years ago, we got a brand new distillery manager, an amazing guy called Stuart Bowman. And this is the first time we do a limited series with him. So the idea here with the signature series is to showcase something unique from the Arran range, from the Arran casks that we have available at the warehouse. So the first one was essentially like a cuvee of Arran, the signature series 1. It was a mixture of Arran that went from 97 to 2017. So the youngest whiskey was 5, the oldest whiskey was 25. It was very complex, beautiful dram. The second edition is called Barrel Bonfire because we have stock that is 42 ppm, made with barley that was heavily peated, essentially. So when James arrived, you might like this, Luke, actually, because our first master distiller came from Ireland. He worked at Connemara before coming to Ireland. So he did experiment a little bit, but nothing really concrete. And then when James came, he started doing the Macri more, it's a little bit 12, then 20 ppm. And then throughout the years, he experimented a bit more and we reached 42 ppm too. And so we did some 42 ppm and we take this liquid that has been in bourbon barrels for around 5 years. And then we moved it into Koval quarter casks, which are also bourbon casks, but from Koval Distillery, which is like this very beautiful, fascinating distillery based in Chicago in the US. And they spend the rest of the time in those casks. So what you have is, it sounds like a little bit of a brag, it's not, but if you tried some older Islay whiskeys, Islay whiskeys from maybe the 90s, or like before, and you have that peat, which is there, but it's very subtle, even if it's strong, but it's there, but it's more like a thin, creamy, layer of peat, and then the fruitiness just sticks, over. This for me is like a fruit bomb, almost like tropical at times. It's like a little bit of mango, again, like creme brulee, but also nice, fresh apples, orange, you can feel the orange. That's classic Arran character everywhere. And it's very caramelly too, which is very lovely, caramelly and creamy. And the smokiness is there, but it's so subtle and so creamy and easy to drink. And it's 11 years old, 50% ABV. We say limited edition, but we also make almost 15,000 bottles. So that's what we're saying. So it is limited, but there is enough so that you don't have to, we try to avoid the whole, crazy buying and flipping sort of thing by also trying to minimize the price by putting in a nice, camber bag, which is a nice minimalistic bottle so that you can find that easily and you can drink it easily too.
Yeah, well, I mean, if the Smuggler series came in a bookcase, I would expect this to come with a massive quill and something, for your signature. But yeah, no, it looks great, and look forward to tasting it. In terms of the James Connemara, that's an interesting backstory because their peated barley comes from the west of Scotland. So it's almost, it's coming full circle. And they're based on the east coast of Ireland, despite Connemara actually being on the west coast of Ireland. So it's
Right.
in Edinburgh distilling a whiskey called Arran. But yeah, I'd love to chat with him about some of his stories from Connemara back in the day. Some great taste notes coming in there. So we've got smoked blackberries, says Scott. Prefer this to edition 1, says Steve. That's really nice. Lots going on flavor wise. Lush, really lush. And we've got, at the end of the day, I'm getting this tasting. I'd give this tasting 10 out of 10, but that's just me. I'm the comforting warmth of a spiced apple pie fresh from the oven. Martin says, when was this one due in the shops? Doesn't look like it's listed yet. So this is a good question. So this is when did it come out, Mariella?
I think like now, I think it's hitting the shelves as we speak, because we had it in the distillery, I want to say maybe for a week, but we knew that literally right now is getting out there. So
it's going to be with us. I think I've talked to the lads in the warehouse, and especially I think maybe Tuesday, Wednesday we'll have it. So this is literally fresh off the shelves. So it is kind of brand new. That's why it's not on our website yet. So it will be, and when it comes into stock, you'll still get the 15% discount, and we will email you to kind of notify that it's in stock and you get it at the discounted price. So do hold off on buying it if it's even listed anywhere else. I'm not sure, but I think we were discussing. Louisa might be able to clarify this as to when we were first discussing this tasting a few weeks back about having it in, and just timing wise with our orders landing into the warehouse. But it will be with us next week, definitely, I believe. So
she's on. I think you're on mute.
I can take you off mute if you want, Louisa. 1 second. I can remember how this works. You sure able to speak now?
Hi. Yeah, no, the order is in, so hopefully it will be in your warehouse sort of early to middle of next week. So is it more as if it's depending on how long it takes for your online orders, or if there are any collections from store or not? I'm not sure how that works. Look.
It probably so the pallets go to store every Monday, so it's probably, if it's not in by Monday, it won't make it to in stock next week. But then as soon as it lands in the warehouse, it'll be straight away online. So that
It will most likely be dispatched from our warehouse on Monday and probably into you guys Tuesday, Wednesday at the latest, I would think.
Perfect. Yeah, so we'll have that line online next week. I actually don't. Marcus said how much it'll be. I actually have no idea. What's the roughly ballpark figure, Louisa? How much it costs?
I'm not sure from yours. I'm not sure how it works out from your side, so it probably would be better to say near the time.
Yeah, fair enough. Perfect. No, well, thank you for that update. You've got to see behind the curtain, folks. But that is a real genuine sort of ideas to when we'll get it in. So I reckon Tuesday, Wednesday it'll be up online if you're interested in buying this. And as I say, we'll give you the 15% off. So yeah. But if you remember,
15% last a week or so.
So 15% for all these tastings last 2 weeks from today. So next week would be no problem. And yeah, and for anyone who's wants to buy some of the whiskies tonight, remember the W Club membership comes with free shipping. So don't delay. Wait for the signature.
Does it?
And yeah, so you can get both free shipping, so it costs you nothing extra to wait, or to not wait, rather than waiting and filling your basket and maybe forgetting. So
so people can order now and then make a second order, or do they have to order?
As in all the orders of free shipping, so there's no, you pay no shipping on any of them, Louisa, if you're a W Club member for anything off our website. So it means that if you were paying £7, £8, £10 for shipping, you might wait and say I'll buy them all in one go.
Yeah, but that doesn't have to be the case. Perfect. Yeah, the Signature Series has really only just been getting rolled out across the UK. So, you guys are probably going to be some of the first to get that. There will be some retailers have it. So that's really exciting. And certainly in terms of a tasting, Mariella, this might be one of the first few tastings that's you've been tasting the Signature Series as well. So
yeah, I smuggled a bottle last week as I was doing a little tour of England, as well as like a surprise dram. So when I saw the lineup for tonight, I was like, yeah, lucky guys, you get to try it because it's amazing, and it's been one of my most favorites to share so far. So I'm glad for those that like it. I'm glad you like it. It's a bit unique for Arran, so yeah, it's quite a special one.
Yeah, no, it's a really gorgeous whiskey. It's like it reminds me a bit of the kind of best elements of the bodega cask in terms of what we've tried tonight. With that kind of extra.
Yeah, I've seen a few comments of people either like, I don't know if they are actually putting them together, like, you know, or just like comparing them side by side. But I like that you're also having fun with the whiskeys in front of you at the same time. I like how you're just like enjoying them in like, you know, in different ways or together, which is pretty cool. But yeah, very quickly before we leave, I realize we've been here for like a long time. I just wanted to tell you the main differences between the Lagg and Arran, just in case one day you're wondering, because then why can't we make a whiskey like this that you're trying right now at Lagg Distillery? Or like, you know, what are the main differences? Apart obviously from the location and like, you know, the water that we use, obviously Lochranza is very pure and naturally comes from a loch, from Lagg is underground. I just really want to put an emphasis of how the two distilleries are different, because Lagg, we really try to create that oily mezcali new make by doing a very cloudy mash, like, you know, into our mash stand. So we stir the barley and the water quite strongly. Fermentation is around 80 hours, which is pretty decent for industry standards. And this distillation is the most important. At Lagg, when we distill, we have this sort of like a little, kind of big, like, you know, onion shape stills, but with a line arm that is with an angle that is quite narrow, and that are run pretty fast. So we take around like 11, 12 liters of alcohol per minute. So we really want that more robust sort of like spirit, like, you know, we want that peatiness to really shine through and collect a little bit of the rougher, like, you know, edges of the spirit. While at Lochranza, what I meant by sweet and fruity is because obviously 100% unpeated, very clear mash as well, so we don't stir it at all. 85 hours fermentation, and we do a very slow distillation in very tiny little stills. Like we take like 6 liters of alcohol per minute, which means when we take our heart, it really has been affected by the reflux for a long time, so that we have this much more elegant style new make. And I think you can tell already between this, like, you know, I know it's unfair to compare a young whiskey to Arran, like, you know, 11 years old, heavily peated, but you can tell texture wise and flavor wise that this, like, you know, two distilleries are, you know, far away from each other location wise, but also style wise. So you don't have to pick a favorite. You can like them both. You don't have to choose one or the other. But I'm looking forward to the future when we're going to have a lot of Lagg products in the market. So that maybe one day we can do this again and do a Lagg tasting only, like we used to do with Arran before as well. But I'm very grateful that I got to introduce to you the Lagg whiskies as well.
No, definitely. I mean, it's. I think it was the perfect dram to end on, because it does kind of marry that, both the story, the whole thing. You know, it's a perfect marriage, and it's a phenomenal dram of whiskey, the signature. So looking forward to trying it again. And that contrast between both the original first 2 Arrans and the Laggs has been brilliant, or the first 3 Arrans rather. And yeah, no, it's been thank you for coming on, Mariella, and sort of sharing all your time with us. The comments about my sobriety in the chat have made me more self-conscious, so maybe I'm just. But that was normally the time, Mariella, where we get everyone to give their ratings as to whose whiskey was their favorite. And I'll give the discount code in for all the drams you've tried tonight. So WS25AL will give you 15% off all the first 5 whiskies, which are available right now on the whiskey shop. And then as I say, we'll email you with a notification as to when the Signature Series is in, and the same discount code will give you obviously the 15% off that. So even if if you get the general marketing email saying it's out, just that discount code's already going to be ready to go. So you can stick that straight away in. So we've got Jeff says that 6, the best of them, so the signature, and then 2, 3, 1, 5, 4. We've got Corey says 4, 5, 3, 2, 1. Bodega, my favorite, says Kevin. Aaron says Arran Sherry, just ahead of Lagg. Corey, then Sig 2, Amarone, Kilroy, and then the 10, but all were excellent. Let me hear you scream, you want some more, says Corey. So there you go. 2, 3, 1, 4, 5. Spot the non-PC people. So tops for me, the Bodega, followed for interest by the Amarone, not so keen on Lagg, sorry. Signature Arran Sherry, Lagg, Corryvreckan, 10-year-old Amarone, 6, 5, 2, says Steve. So a good split there between the people who enjoy the peated and the non-peated. And Richard says one of our best tastings. There was a few comments that earlier on when we were chatting about the signature, and you were talking there, Mariella, as well about how much people enjoyed this tasting. So it's great. Also, there was a comment from someone on Bunnahabhain. I can't see it now. Scrolling back up.
Barry said it like peated Bunnahabhain. I forgot who said that. But...
Yeah, Frankie's Bunnahabhain peated tasting, it's very good, more like a Bunnahabhain peated. I think that's a really good comparison as well. It's interesting because Lagg's been mentioned as well. Obviously, the same company too. So maybe maybe we should collaborate.
We should. No, but let me take this time before you sign off. I just wanted to say one big thank you, first of all, to all the people that literally showed up to this evening. Not only you bought the set, but you also were here tonight. Thank you so much for your company and all the comments. It's really appreciated. Thank you obviously to Louisa, my colleague, that helped put this together and source all the stock for this as well. And thank you, Luke. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been lovely to talk to you. I hope we see each other in person one day. I don't know if you're also based in Glasgow or not, but hopefully one day we'll see each other in person for a dram as well.
Yeah, no, that would be brilliant. I'm actually based right next to. I was talking to Louise about this in the office a few weeks back. I'm based right next to your offices in Stirling. So
that's where I am right now. Fair enough.
So maybe I'll catch you in Stirling for a drink sometime.
Yeah.
Both you and Louisa. So no, thank you for your time, Mariella, and thank you, Mariella, and thank you for everyone who's joined. A really great tasting, and it's for the kind of unplanned four-week break since we last did these. It's great to be back at them. So thanks everyone, and the next tasting will be up on sale, I'm hoping Tuesday. So do keep your eyes on your emails for that, and we'll send out the recording and the discount code again for that tomorrow. One last time, the discount code for this is WS25AL. If you go to the original product page with for the tasting pack on the W Club Members Hub, you'll find a link to all the whiskies there to save you searching if you want to. So thanks for all the kind comments at the end, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, Mariella.
Thank you. Ciao.
Bye.